Abandoned kitten finds shelter at fire station. What she does next surprises everyone. It was a cold, drizzly morning when Fire Station 12 got an unexpected visitor. The crew had just finished their routine equipment checks, and the scent of freshly brewed coffee filled the air. Captain Mark Reynolds, a seasoned firefighter with a gruff exterior but a soft heart, was reviewing reports when a soft mewling sound caught his attention. "What's that?" he muttered, setting down his clipboard. The sound came again, faint but insistent. He followed it to the station's open bay, where the fire truck sat gleaming in the dim light. Underneath the ladder truck, curled up against one of the massive tires, was a tiny, rain-soaked kitten. Her gray fur was matted, her eyes wide and pleading as she let out another feeble meow. "Guys, we've got a situation," Mark called over his shoulder, his voice gruff but tinged with amusement. The rest of the crew gathered quickly, their curious expressions softening as they spotted the little bundle of fur. "Poor thing must have been out in the rain all night," said Sarah, one of the newer recruits, as she crouched down to gently scoop up the kitten. The little creature shivered in her hands, her tiny body no larger than a loaf of bread. "What do we do with her?" asked Kyle, the station's joker, though his tone was unusually serious. "Well, we're not leaving her out there," Mark said firmly. "Let's get her warmed up and see if she's hurt." The kitten was quickly wrapped in a soft towel, placed near the heater in the station's lounge. As the warmth seeped into her tiny frame, she began to relax, her soft purring filling the room. "She's a fighter," Sarah said, smiling. "I think we should call her Ember." The name stuck instantly, and Ember became the unofficial mascot of Fire Station 12. At first, the crew thought Ember would be like any other stray they'd taken in over the years, grateful for food and warmth, but ultimately temporary. But Ember had other plans. From the moment she was strong enough to explore, she made herself at home in the fire station, weaving her way into the hearts of every firefighter. She had an uncanny knack for appearing just when someone needed a morale boost. Whether it was curling up on the lap of a stressed-out recruit or playfully batting at the pen of someone slogging through paperwork, Ember seemed to know exactly how to lighten the mood. "She's got better instincts than half the rookies," Kyle joked one afternoon as Ember perched on his shoulder, watching him polish the station's brass bell. But Ember's most surprising talent was yet to be revealed. Late one night, the station was jolted awake by the blaring of the alarm. A warehouse fire had broken out on the industrial side of town, and the crew scrambled into action. As the trucks roared out of the station, Ember sat on the windowsill, her wide eyes following their departure. The fire was massive, flames licking at the night sky as the crew worked tirelessly to contain it. Thick smoke billowed through the air, making visibility nearly impossible. Captain Mark led his team into the building, searching for any signs of life. "Clear on this side," Sarah called, her voice muffled by her respirator. "Same here," Kyle added, his flashlight cutting through the haze. Just as Mark was about to signal the all clear, a faint sound stopped him in his tracks. It was a soft, desperate meow. Mark froze, his ears straining against the roar of the flames. The faint meow came again, unmistakable despite the chaos around him. "Hold on," he shouted to his team, raising a hand. "Do you hear that?" Sarah and Kyle paused, their eyes darting around the smoke-filled room. "What is it?" Sarah asked. "A cat," Mark said, his voice firm. "I heard a cat." Kyle frowned. "You sure?" In all this noise, Mark didn't respond. Instead, he turned toward the sound, his instincts as sharp as ever. He motioned for Sarah and Kyle to follow. "This way," he said, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. The crew moved cautiously, the floor beneath them groaning under the weight of the fire's destruction. As they ventured deeper into the warehouse, the meowing grew louder, more urgent. It was coming from a stack of crates near the back wall, partially collapsed under a fallen beam. "There," Mark shouted, pointing toward a narrow gap between the crates. The faint glow of reflected light caught the glint of two wide, terrified eyes. "It's a kitten," Sarah said, her voice softening despite the urgency of the moment. "She's trapped." Mark assessed the scene quickly. The beam pinning the crates was unstable, the wood charred and cracking from the heat. "We need to move fast," he said. Kyle grabbed the pry bar. "Sarah, get the carrier ready." As Kyle worked to shift the beam, Sarah prepared a small animal carrier they used for rescues. The kitten's meows grew frantic, her tiny body pressed against the back of the crate. "Hang in there, little one," Mark muttered, his hands steady as he worked to create an opening. After what felt like an eternity, the beam shifted just enough for Sarah to reach in. She carefully pulled the kitten free, cradling her trembling body against her chest. "Got her," she called, relief flooding her voice. "Good work," Mark said. "Now let's get out of here before this place comes down." The team moved quickly, the building groaning ominously as flames consumed its structure. By the time they emerged into the night, their gear was covered in soot, and their lungs burned from the smoke. But the sight of the tiny kitten, safe and alive, brought a wave of relief. The moment they returned to the station, Ember was waiting for them, her tail flicking impatiently as she sat on the windowsill. Her sharp eyes locked onto the carrier in Sarah's hands, and she let out a single, commanding meow. "Looks like Ember knew," Kyle said with a grin. She must have sensed there was another cat out there. The rescued kitten, barely a few weeks old, was named a fitting companion for Ember. At first, the crew thought it was a coincidence, but they couldn't ignore how Ember's behavior had changed in the hours leading up to the call. She had paced restlessly through the station, sitting by the fire truck bay, as if waiting for something. "It's like she knew we were going to find Ash," Sarah said one evening as Ember and Ash curled up together on the couch. "Do you think she could sense it?" Mark, never one for superstition, hesitated. "I don't know," he admitted. "But Ember's proven she's got instincts. Maybe there's more to her than we realize." As Ash grew stronger, she quickly became Ember's shadow, following her around the station and mimicking her every move. The two cats became inseparable, their bond a source of endless amusement for the crew. But Ember's role as the station's guardian wasn't over. One rainy afternoon, just as the crew was settling in for a quiet shift, Ember began pacing near the window again. Her ears twitched, and her tail flicked with agitation. "What's up, girl?" Sarah asked, crouching beside her. Ember meowed softly, pawing at the glass. Moments later, the alarm blared, signaling another call. The crew sprang into action, suiting up and climbing into the trucks. Ember watched them leave, her eyes filled with the same intensity they'd seen before. At the scene of the fire, a residential building on the edge of town, crew worked quickly to evacuate the residents. Most of the tenants had already escaped, but one woman approached Captain Mark, her face pale with worry. "My son," she said, her voice trembling. "He's still inside. Couldn't get to him." Mark nodded, his expression serious. "We'll find him," he promised. Inside, the smoke was thick, and visibility was low. The team split up, searching each room for any sign of the boy. It was Ember's uncanny intuition, however, that would soon play a critical role once again. The smoke was oppressive, swallowing the light from their flashlights and muffling every sound except the crackling of flames. Captain Mark and Sarah moved quickly through the first floor, checking every corner for the missing boy. "Anything?" Mark called out, his voice muffled by his respirator. "Not yet," Sarah replied, her flashlight cutting through the haze. "I'm heading toward the back." Upstairs, Kyle and another firefighter searched the bedrooms. "Kid," Kyle shouted, his voice echoing through the burning house. "If you can hear me, shout back." The only response was the groaning of the house as the fire spread. Just as Mark was about to signal the team to regroup, Sarah's voice crackled over the radio. "Captain, I think I found something. There's a room back here, but the door's locked." Mark was already moving toward her location. "Hang tight. I'm on my way." When he reached Sarah, she was crouched by the door, peering through a narrow gap where the frame had warped from the heat. "There's movement inside," she said, pointing to the shadows flickering beyond the door. "But I can't tell if it's the boy." Mark motioned for the pry bar, his heart pounding as he worked to force the door open. The lock gave way with a loud crack, and the door swung inward, revealing a small bedroom. On the far side, curled into a tight ball under a desk, was a boy no older than 7. His wide eyes were glassy with fear, and he clutched a stuffed animal to his chest. "It's okay," Mark said, his voice calm and reassuring as he crouched down. "We're here to help. Can you come to me?" The boy didn't move, his body frozen with fear. The fire roared closer, the room growing hotter by the second. "We're running out of time," Sarah said urgently. Mark glanced around the room, searching for anything that might help. His eyes landed on the stuffed animal in the boy's hands, a gray cat with strikingly familiar features. "Hey," he said gently, pointing to the toy. "Is that your cat?" The boy nodded slightly, his grip tightening on the toy. "Her name's Ember," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Mark's breath caught. "Ember, huh? That's a great name. You know, we've got a cat named Ember, too. She's waiting for us back at the fire station. How about we go see her?" The boy hesitated, his gaze darting between Mark and Sarah. Finally, he reached out, allowing Mark to lift him into his arms. The team worked quickly to navigate their way out of the house, the fire growing more intense with each passing second. As they emerged into the cool night air, the boy's mother let out a cry of relief, rushing to embrace her son. "Thank you," she sobbed, her tears mingling with the soot on her face. "Thank you for bringing him back." Mark nodded, his own relief tempered by the adrenaline still coursing through his veins. But as he looked at the boy, clutching his stuffed Ember tightly, he couldn't shake the sense that their own Ember had played a part in this rescue. Back at the station, the crew was greeted by a familiar sight. Ember sitting by the bay door, her tail flicking as she watched them return. But something was different this time. She wasn't alone. Ash, still young but growing fast, sat beside Ember, mimicking her posture. The two cats stared intently at the crew, their golden eyes reflecting the station's lights. "It's like they knew," Sarah said, shaking her head in disbelief. "Every time we go out, it's like they're watching over us." Mark chuckled, kneeling to scratch Ember behind the ears. "Maybe they are," he said. "Ember's more than just a mascot. She's part of the team." The boy and his mother visited the station the following week, bringing a basket of cookies to thank the crew. When the boy saw Ember, his face lit up. "She looks just like my stuffed animal," he exclaimed, holding up his toy. Ember, as if understanding, patted over and nuzzled the boy's hand. The room fell silent as everyone watched the interaction, the unspoken connection between the cat and the child palpable. "She's a hero," the boy's mother said softly, "just like all of you." From that day forward, Ember's reputation as the station's guardian grew. Whether it was her uncanny ability to sense when a call was coming or her comforting presence during the crew's toughest days, she proved time and again that she was more than just a stray who had found shelter. She was family. As the seasons changed, Ember and Ash became fixtures of Fire Station 12, their bond with the crew unbreakable. And though they couldn't speak, their actions said more than words ever could. They were there to protect, to comfort, and to remind everyone that even in the darkest moments, a little light and a lot of love could make all the difference. Life at Fire Station 12 carried on, but it was impossible to ignore how Ember and Ash had woven themselves into the fabric of the team. Ember's intuition became a running legend among the firefighters. On days when she paced restlessly or sat by the trucks, the crew knew a call was imminent. Her quiet presence before a tough rescue was a steadying force, as if she were reminding them that they were never alone. Ash, still learning the ways of the station under Ember's watchful eye, began to mimic her uncanny behaviors. Though younger and more playful, Ash showed flashes of the same instincts that had made Ember a legend. When the alarm blared, the two cats would position themselves by the bay door, watching intently as the crew suited up and departed. "They're like little guardians," Sarah said one evening, watching Ember and Ash settle into their favorite spot on the station couch. "It's like they know they're part of something bigger." One rainy afternoon, a call came in about a multi-car pileup on the highway. The scene was chaotic, with overturned vehicles and injured passengers scattered along the slick asphalt. The firefighters worked tirelessly, cutting through twisted metal and stabilizing those in need of urgent care. As the years rolled on, Fire Station 12 became more than just a workplace for the firefighters. It was a beacon of hope, courage, and community spirit. Ember and Ash's stories continue to inspire not only those within the station, but also people far beyond the town's borders. One day, a documentary filmmaker named Lisa arrived at the station. She had heard tales of the extraordinary cats and the firefighters whose lives they had touched. "I want to tell your story," she said to Captain Mark, her eyes alight with passion. "People need to hear about the incredible bond between you and these remarkable animals." Mark, though humble by nature, recognized the value in sharing Ember and Ash's legacy. "If their story can inspire others as much as they've inspired us," he said, "then it's worth telling." The film crew spent weeks at the station, capturing the daily routines, the camaraderie among the crew, and the ways in which Ember and Ash had shaped their lives. Old footage and photographs were shared, showing the cats in their prime. Ember perched attentively by the bay door, Ash playfully chasing Kyle's shoelaces, and both cats offering silent comfort during the most challenging times. The documentary, titled Guardians of the Flame, premiered at a local theater, drawing a crowd that filled every seat. As the lights dimmed and the film began, the audience was transported into the heart of Fire Station 12, experiencing the highs and lows, the laughter and tears, and the profound impact of two small cats with hearts as big as any hero. The response was overwhelming. Viewers were moved by the authenticity and warmth of the story, many wiping away tears by the time the credits rolled. The documentary gained national attention, leading to interviews and features on major news outlets. Letters and messages poured in from people who had been touched by the film, sharing their own stories of courage, loss, and the unexpected ways that animals had brought light into their lives. Fire Station 12 began receiving donations, which they used to start a community outreach program. They partnered with local schools to educate children about fire safety, the importance of teamwork, and the value of kindness, lessons embodied by Ember and Ash. One sunny afternoon, as part of the outreach program, the crew hosted a special event at the station. Children gathered around as Sarah and Kyle shared stories of daring rescues and the days when Ember and Ash roamed the halls. They unveiled a new addition to the station, a small library corner filled with books about firefighting, heroism, and animals who made a difference. Among the books was one written by the boy who had been rescued years before, now an aspiring author. Titled Ember's Light, the children's book told the tale of a brave cat who helped a team of firefighters save lives, teaching lessons of bravery and compassion. The legacy of Ember and Ash had come full circle, inspiring a new generation to carry forward the values they represented. The fire station became a hub of community engagement, hosting fundraisers, blood drives, and educational workshops. The crew noticed a renewed sense of purpose in their work, fueled by the connections they had forged with the people they served. One evening, as the sun set over the town, casting a warm glow over the station, Mark stood by the statue of Ember and Ash. He reflected on how much had changed since that rainy day when a tiny kitten had sought shelter under their truck. Funny how the smallest things can have the biggest impact, he mused aloud. Sarah joined him, nodding thoughtfully. They taught us so much, she said softly. About courage, yes, but also about the power of love and community. As twilight deepened, a soft meowing caught their attention. Emerging from around the corner was a small, gray and white kitten, its eyes bright and inquisitive. It trotted up to them without hesitation, rubbing against Mark's leg. Well, would you look at that, Mark chuckled. Seems like we have another visitor. Sarah smiled, gently picking up the kitten. What should we call this one? Mark thought for a moment, then said, how about Glow? To carry on the light that Ember and Ash brought us. Glow it is, Sarah agreed. And so, the cycle of kindness and guardianship continued. Glow quickly became a beloved member of Fire Station 12, following in the paw prints of Ember and Ash. The crew embraced the new arrival, their hearts open to the endless possibilities that each day and each small act of compassion might bring. In the years that followed, the story of Ember, Ash, and now Glow became a timeless tale within the community, a reminder that heroes come in all forms and that even the smallest creature can leave a lasting imprint on the world. As the evening wore on, the firefighters at Station 12 marveled at how Glow had instantly made herself at home. She explored every nook and cranny of the station, her tiny paws patting across the floors that Ember and Ash had once claimed as their own. Glow's boundless curiosity brought smiles to everyone, even Mark, who rarely allowed himself to show sentiment. But the serenity was shattered when the alarm blared unexpectedly, its sharp wail cutting through the station. Mark jumped into action, barking orders as the crew scrambled to gear up. The call was urgent. A fire had broken out at an apartment building on the far side of town. Early reports hinted at a dire situation, with multiple residents trapped inside. Let's move, Mark shouted, his voice steady despite the growing tension. As the trucks roared out of the bay, Glow watched from the window, her small figure silhouetted against the flashing lights. Her ears twitched, and her tail swished as though she sensed the gravity of the situation. When the crew arrived, chaos greeted them. Flames shot out from the top floors of the apartment building, smoke pouring into the night sky. Residents stood huddled on the sidewalk, their faces pale with fear. A woman rushed toward the fire truck, tears streaming down her face. My son, she cried, clutching Mark's arm. He's still up there. Please, you have to help him. Mark nodded, his eyes steely with determination. We'll get him out, he said, motioning for his team. Kyle, Sarah, take the lower floors. I'll head up. The building was a labyrinth of heat and smoke, the air thick and suffocating. Mark pushed forward, his flashlight cutting through the haze. He could hear muffled cries for help, each one spurring him on. Captain, we've got two out from the second floor. Sarah's voice crackled over the radio. Still searching the west wing. Keep going, Mark replied, his breath heavy through his respirator. I'm heading to the top floor. As he climbed, the flames grew fiercer, the structure groaning under the weight of its destruction. On the top floor, Mark found a door partially ajar. He pushed it open to find a small bedroom engulfed in smoke. A boy, no older than 10, was crouched in a corner, clutching a stuffed animal. Mark's heart raced. "Hey there," he said gently, kneeling down. "I'm here to help. Can you come with me?" The boy shook his head, tears streaming down his soot-streaked face. "I can't leave," he cried. "She's still here." "Who's still here?" Mark asked, scanning the room. Before the boy could answer, a loud crack echoed through the building as a beam collapsed behind them. Mark acted quickly, scooping the boy into his arms. "We have to go," he shouted. But the boy struggled, his grip on the stuffed animal tightening. "She's here," he insisted. "The cat?" Mark's breath caught as he realized what the boy was saying. He looked around desperately, his flashlight sweeping the room. In the corner, barely visible through the smoke, was a small gray and white figure. "Hello," Mark whispered, disbelief and fear coursing through him. The kitten stared back at him, her eyes reflecting the light like two tiny beacons. She let out a soft but urgent meow before darting toward the doorway, pausing to look back at Mark. "She's showing us the way," the boy said, his voice trembling but filled with hope. Mark didn't hesitate. He followed Glow, the kitten weaving expertly through the smoke and debris. She led them down the hallway and to the staircase, where the flames had created a treacherous barrier. Glow stopped, her body tense as she looked up at Mark. "We can't get through here," he said to his radio. "I need another exit." Sarah's voice crackled through the static. "There's an exterior fire escape on the east side. Can you get to it?" Mark glanced out a nearby window, spotting the rusted ladder just a few feet away. "We're heading there now," he replied. Turning to the boy, he said, "Hold on tight." With Glow leading the way, they navigated the treacherous corridor, finally reaching the window. Mark pushed it open, the cold night air rushing in as he helped the boy climb onto the fire escape. Glow followed nimbly, her small form moving effortlessly across the rickety structure. As Mark descended with the boy, the building shuddered violently. The fire had consumed the top floors, and the roof began to collapse. "Hurry," Sarah called from below, her arms outstretched to catch the boy as Mark lowered him to safety. When Mark reached the ground, Glow was already there, her fur singed but her eyes bright. The boy knelt beside her, tears streaming down his face as he hugged her tightly. "You saved us," he whispered. Back at the station, the crew gathered around Glow, who sat perched on Sarah's lap, purring contentedly. "She's not just a mascot," Kyle said, shaking his head in amazement. "She's got instincts like Ember." Mark nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Maybe she's more than instinct," he said. "Maybe she's part of something bigger, just like Ember and Ash were." The boy and his family visited the station a week later, bringing flowers and homemade cookies as a token of thanks. The boy clutched his stuffed animal, but his eyes were fixed on Glow. "She's a hero," he said softly. "Just like you." Mark crouched beside him, resting a hand on the boy's shoulder. "She's part of our team," he said. "And so are you now." As the days turned into weeks, Glow continued to prove herself as more than just a kitten who had wandered into the station. She became a symbol of hope, living reminder of the legacy Ember and Ash had left behind. And in the quiet moments when the station was still, the crew often wondered if the spirits of Ember and Ash were watching over them, guiding Glow just as she guided them. In the end, Fire Station 12 wasn't just a place of work. It was a sanctuary, a family, and a testament to the unbreakable bonds that connected them all, human and feline alike. The weeks following the dramatic rescue solidified Glow's place in Fire Station 12. She wasn't just a stray who had wandered in. She was a true member of the team, embodying the courage and instinct that had defined the station's legacy since Ember and Ash. Glow's sharp intuition and unwavering loyalty reminded everyone that heroes came in all forms, even the smallest and softest. The crew's bond with Glow deepened with each passing day. She was there during every call, pacing by the bay doors before the trucks roared to life. She was there in moments of celebration, curling up on the couch as the crew laughed and shared stories. And she was there in moments of loss, offering silent comfort with her purring presence. The boy and his family became regular visitors to the station, their gratitude evolving into genuine friendship. The boy, who had faced such terrifying moments in the fire, began to see the station as a safe haven. He spent afternoons drawing pictures of Glow, the firefighters, and even the rescue that had brought them together. One evening, he presented a drawing to Captain Mark, a vibrant depiction of Glow standing triumphantly on the fire truck, her tail raised high. Beneath it, he had written in careful, bold letters, "Glow the Brave." Mark framed the drawing and hung it in the lounge, where it became a symbol of the station's enduring spirit. "That's exactly what she is," he said. "Brave, just like all of you." Glow's story, much like Ember and Ashes before her, spread far beyond the walls of the station. Local schools invited the crew to speak about bravery and teamwork, always asking for Glow to join. She would sit proudly at the front of the room, presence captivating the children as they learned about the importance of compassion and courage. Over time, Fire Station 12 became synonymous with resilience, its story inspiring not just the community, but people from all walks of life. The statue of Ember and Ash now included a small addition, Glow's likeness, her head raised as if ready to lead the next generation. Beneath the statue, a new inscription was added, "To Glow, Ember, Ash, and all who teach us that courage comes in every shape and size." Years passed, but Glow's legacy lived on. Her story became part of the station's rich history, told alongside those of Ember and Ash. The fire station, once just a workplace, had transformed into a symbol of hope and connection, a place where love, loyalty, and bravery intertwined. And though the faces of the crew changed with time, one thing remained constant: the spirit of the guardians who had watched over them, guiding them in their toughest moments and reminding them that even in the face of great challenges, they were never alone.